Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast website by, and for, and about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me tonight for more on recreating our own future. So let's get started. If you like what you hear tonight, please leave a like and tell your friends and send me a message at the same time when we'll catch up and see what's going on. A quick note, as I mentioned the past couple of weeks, this episode is pre-recorded instead of being actual live. I'm taking a Spanish course right now, oh dear, which is near the same time as the go live time. So for the next few weeks, I'm going to have to be pre-recording and then schedule the broadcast. Thanks for your understanding. Tonight, we're going to do an overview of the whole initial goal setting process to give you an idea of what's to be coming in both the rest of our lives on this particular topic and then also the course that's coming. And way back when, you may recall, if you've been following me for a while, we started off by saying that if you want to get somewhere, you need to know where you want to go, right? There's no point in looking at a map if you don't have anywhere to get to. In life, that means you need to kind of define your purpose and then define the goals that are consistent with that purpose. Hopefully, you have some idea or ideas as to what your life purpose is. It can be in general terms, like I want to travel and learn about different cultures, or it can be very specific. I want to help children under 10 years old learn how to read. And if you don't have any sense of what you want to accomplish, well, I would suggest that's probably the first place to start because you need some sort of framework in order to provide you guidance in life's decisions. And we didn't cover defining your life purpose yet, but we'll talk about that more in the future. It's a big topic with a simple goal. Like I said, you really want to define a framework for how you're going to live your life. And your goal, your life's purpose probably will, the details are going to change over time, but your true life purpose probably won't change in the real core beliefs. That's why it's worth initially defining your purpose in general terms and then specifically how you can support that purpose in your current situation. And the reality is, even if you can't say out loud what your life purpose is, you really have one. It defines how you act during the day. It defines what you get accomplished and don't get accomplished. So even though you may not be able to enumerate it and write it down on paper right now, it's probably worthwhile trying to get it out of yourself. And we have some techniques to do that, but to get it out of yourself so it becomes clearer to you what it is you're trying to accomplish. But like I said, there's lots more about that, and we'll go through that another time. But first, we're going to start going over. There we are. Sorry, doing too many things at once. Going over what we did up to this point from Thanksgiving to now. We did it in a real quick way last week, but we also as kind of an index as to when those things happen. So this is going to be a little bit more in depth, not a real super in depth, but if you're just joining us, this will give you some idea of what it is we're talking about and what we're planning to do for the next few weeks. So we started off, you recall, talking about SMART goals. And SMART goals are goals that are specific. They're not general goals like, oh, I want to be in better health. No, I want to stop eating sugar. And it's something very specific. And then looking ahead by accident. And then they had to be measurable. And so if you want to stop eating sugar, say, I want to stop eating sugar, having sugar in my coffee because I drink a lot of coffee every day. If I put sugar in it, I get a lot of sugar that I don't need. They have to be achievable or actionable. And by that it means it has to be something that's realistic. You can't say, we talked about this before, I'm going to start flying by flapping my arms. Probably not going to work. It really has to be something that's somewhat practical. I'm going to be the best tennis player in the whole world. If you're young and athletic, that's a great goal. If you're, middle-aged and older, probably not a really realistic goal. You might be the best athlete in your age group, and that gets back to being specific. So if you have a specific goal, measurable, has to be achievable and actionable. It has to be something that you can really do. You can't just say, I want to get smart. Well, what does define smart? You have to be, again, specific about it. It has to be relevant to your own life purpose and your own personal goals that are going on. And it has to be really, to be effective, it should be a reach goal or kind of a stretch goal. Saying something like, well, I'm going to skip having sugar for one meal a year. Okay, I mean, yes, it's a start, but realistically, you really want something to be a little bit more of a stretch goal. I'm going to get up and exercise every single day and walk at least 5 times a week. not something you would normally do, and something that's a little bit more of a stretch goal than you would normally do in your life. And it has to be time based. It has to have a deadline, because if you don't have a deadline, your natural tendency is to put it off, and you'll start tomorrow, or um, I'm going to lose 5 pounds sometime before I'm 105 years old. Well, maybe you will, maybe you won't, but unless you're like 104, that's probably not a real good goal. So that's the basics of SMART goals, and this slide will be available on the website too. So again, they're specific, measurable, achievable, and actionable, relevant, and reach goals, the stretch goals. You have to work a little hard, something to really motivate you and push you along, and they have to be time-based. They have to have a deadline. So I apologize, we're working on a couple of different screens here. And then the other part is just moving along here. I do apologize. Different technical setup, so it's many exciting things going on. So after defining our purpose, like I said, we did our initial discussion on SMART goals, and we also talked about how to record them in a way that you'll likely remember and internalize them. If you write them down, and like actually I was looking up something earlier, matter of fact, for this broadcast, and I had Shinola used to have these really nice little notebooks. They don't have them anymore, unfortunately. But I like blank pages. It's just a little blank page notebook. And I'm sharing my screen. You can see me in the corner. There we are. Little blank page notebook. And it's just really handy when you write things down. Funny things happen when you write things versus type things. Typing for me, I can type very fast. I can type pretty much at the rate of spoken speech, unless somebody is speaking quickly. Really quickly. And so clearly I'm not thinking about what I'm typing. Just I hear it, it goes on the keyboard. And it's comes from a lot of practice. And I used to watch some other people that could do it far better than I. They could actually hold a conversation on a different topic, which is pretty amazing. But so typing, while very fast and very efficient, isn't very good for getting things in your head, because they don't really ever go through your head. They go through a little piece, and your brain has learned, okay, just kind of connect your ears to your arms, and off it goes. So typing isn't a good thing. Sitting and writing everything out longhand, however, with a pen and a paper, that involves now a lot of different pieces. Your motor nerves are involved, different parts of your brain are involved. And when it goes through all that processing, it's much more likely to stay with you and last a lot longer time. And there's other tricks as well. We'll go through that more in the coming days. But the next piece, as I talked about, and we talked about before, is envisionment. You really want to imagine your future in such a manner that your brain, A, thinks it's the present, and B, naturally wants to help you reach your goals rather than trying to keep you stuck in your safe present. Remember, we talked about that. One of your brain's big purposes is to keep you safe. It knows how to automate things that work. And so once you get a routine that seems to be working, it really doesn't want to try something new. So if you're trying to make a whole new change in your life, then it's really difficult to kind of get your brain to buy into this and say, hey, we're going to change everything all around, and we're going to try living life differently. And I know every day we sleep till 10 minutes before I have to get up to go to work. And then I rush through the house and I run out and I grab something at the coffee shop that's waiting for me. And that's my morning. But this morning, we're going to get up at 5:30 in the morning. We're going to go to the gym and work out. And we're not going to have any carbs. And we're going to eat healthy once we get to work. Your brain's natural response to that is, we've been working successfully on the first plan for 15 years. Why are we going to change now? This is a whole new plan. I don't know if it's going to work. And so your brain wants to keep you safe, and so it naturally doesn't want to change. And so the next piece, as I said, is all about envisionment. And that's the power of really immersing yourself in the future success and then working back to the present. So by doing that, let's pick a goal, a tangible goal. Let's say we want to go out and teach a little course, and we want to teach our friends how to use a computer. And so our friends think we're very computer savvy, and we don't think we're very good, but they think we're amazing. And so you think, well, hey, I should teach my friends how to use it. And the normal way of doing this is if you can see my cursor, I don't know if you really can. Maybe if it moves, you'll notice it. But you're sitting there and you're thinking, how am I going to teach my friends how to use a computer? So then you go and you start to write down a plan. And there's just all these things that could go wrong. I don't know if I have a spare computer. What if they ruin my computer? What if they're not interested? What if I don't teach them well? What if I teach them wrong? And you go back and think some more. It's kind of, well, maybe I shouldn't teach them all about a computer. Maybe I should teach them how to just use an internet browser. And then you go back, oh, what if they have a different kind of browser than I have and I don't know how to use it? And then they think I'm stupid. And this is all your brain trying to keep you safe. And it's because it doesn't know how to do the whole thing at the beginning. What it tries to do is to keep you from going ahead and doing something that's in good old days from hurting yourself. And in the modern days, it's mostly from embarrassing yourself, putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, or failing at what you're trying to do. Now, the other way of doing this, however, which we talked about, is starting at the end, thinking about all your friends saying, wow, hey, or actually think about how you successfully did your course and telling maybe your significant other something about how well the course went. And then you go back and you think about all your friends saying, hey, thank you so much. Thank you for teaching me how to do that. And it allowed me to keep in touch with my grandkids who I couldn't see before, or I got a hold of my sister who I haven't talked to since she moved to Europe, or actually haven't really seen and talked to her since she moved to Europe. And you envision not only that you got it done, but all the positive things that happened because you got it done. And then you go back and you think about all the things you had to learn how to do. Oh, you did learn how to use a couple browsers, and it turns out there's only 2 or 3 browsers that most people use anyway. So it really wasn't that hard. And you forgot that your friend, maybe use a Windows machine, but your friend had an Apple and they told you how to use it. And then you go back and you say, wow, knowing that now I can write a pretty effective plan because I know more resources and things that are available. And now when you get back to the beginning, now you and your brain have a path how to navigate all these things, and it becomes much easier. That's the power of envisionment. It gives your brain the time to acclimate to a new way of life and to see that it's attainable, and then step back into the present so that it knows that solving those problems that always come up in the journey really won't be quite as hard as it first was thinking. And so that's really core to the whole way of changing our lives and moving ahead, envisioning the outcome we want, thinking about how we got there, and then solving those problems all the way back to the present. And it gives your brain a big step up in how to move forward. Now, the next piece about that, if you recall back, that we went through and we did a lot of things on talking about exactly how our brain forms, what actually happens when we look at something, and I'm looking at a computer screen. How does that get processed in my head? And it's really important because there's a whole lot that goes on with thoughts and stimuluses and beliefs and all of that. So that's the next piece we're going to cover. And that is really simple conceptually. What's going on behind the covers, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. But basically, in life, we're going through life and there's a stimulus of some sort. In this case, we see a little cardinal sitting in the tree. And you see the little head there has a little boink going on. And that's just kind of like, oh, there's a cardinal sitting in the tree. Or a little child, you don't know what a cardinal is, you don't know anything about it. And you see that cardinal and you just register it. So you see it, your brain makes some sort of acknowledgement that it's there. And then after that, the next step is, sorry, getting out of sync with myself here. There's, like I said, we just say that we saw something. So there's a stimulus and your brain kind of recognizes it. And then there's a thought that's formed. And that thought is probably things like, oh, it's red. It's in a tree. So I guess it's a bird. I've seen birds before. And it starts going through and gathering details about what it is that you saw. And thoughts happen very quickly. And there's, and it's important, there's an important distinction here. Thoughts happen all the time, but they happen at a very low level. And there's an immediate filter that we'll talk about in a second that says whether that thought is something that we should care about or not care about. And is it something we've seen before or something that I've not seen before? And what is the emotion that's associated with that thought? And so in the case of this case, the stimulus is the bird. We immediately form a thought and say it's a different kind of bird we haven't seen before. Now we go, first we cover all the things we know how to do. Oh, it's a bird. It looks like this. And then we get whatever detail. It doesn't match any of the birds that I've seen before. So now it starts digging deeper and going, oh, what kind of bird is it? That's all what's going on in that thought. And then right after that thought, and it always is in this order, right after that thought, there's an emotion formed. And the emotion is how we go through, and then once we see that stimulus, what do we do about it? Is it an emotion of, I see something in the tree. Oh, look, it's a mountain lion, right? Different emotion than, oh, look, it's a cardinal. And in this case, maybe we've seen cardinals many times. We remember their song and we go, oh, it's a cardinal. And I like cardinals. So the emotion that's associated with it is a positive emotion. It's a happy thought, but it could be a neutral emotion. Oh, look, there's a tree. It may be that that's a tree you like or don't like, or it may just be, oh, there's another tree. There's a dog walking by and you don't really, if it's not a dog you're concerned about, you don't think anything about it. It's just a dog walking by. Those are neutral emotions. It's 3 minutes till the food is done. Okay, there's 3 minutes, nothing bad. However, same stimulus can give different emotions depending on the circumstances. We'll talk about this another time. But if it's 3 minutes to the food is done, but you're supposed to be on a call for work in 2 minutes, kind of, oh man, the food's not going to be done when I get on my call. So now it's going to be cold when I have time to actually eat it. So emotions can change over the stimulus and the thought, but there's always an emotion that comes out of every thought. And so we keep seeing that cardinal multiple times. And we say, oh, yeah, there's a cardinal. I like cardinals. Cardinals make me smile. And what comes out of that then is with repetition, it becomes a belief that happens automatically. So now every time you see the cardinal, you think, oh, I'm happy because I saw a cardinal and I like cardinals. You didn't do the whole analysis. You didn't say, oh, it's a bird. What kind of bird? You didn't say, oh, is it a bird and not a mountain lion? All that stuff now happens in automatic. And literally the neurons in your brain get hardwired. They're reversible, but they have a tendency to automate this whole process. See, you get a stimulus from the world. You look up, you see a red bird in the tree, and you don't think anything about the red bird. It's because you just smile because you like cardinals. That's it. It saves a lot of time because remember, it's those beliefs which control our interpretation of most of the thoughts we have each day. And remember, on a typical day, most people have between 20 and 50,000 thoughts throughout the day. They can be little things like I said, oh, 3 minutes to the timer is done. But that's just something that's processed on a very subliminal level, kind of what that means. And so you don't have to sit and go, oh, that's 180 seconds. This is a second. You just kind of, it's 3 minutes. Okay, it's enough time to go put a couple dishes away or whatever. And your beliefs make it so that we can concentrate on the most important things that are happening in our life. And all those other rote things that go by, we don't have to pay attention to. So, there may be things that happen in your life, like go back to the cardinal. You may wonder why you smile every time you see that cardinal. And it may be that something like that belief was formed in childhood when your favorite uncle would always whistle every time you saw a cardinal. He whistled the cardinal song and maybe the cardinal would answer him and then he'd tickle you. And it was just something that was fun. And so now, years and years later, you see a cardinal and maybe it makes you smile or laugh and it's all automatic. And this is super important, but we may not even know why that's happening. We pick up these beliefs all throughout our lives, and they really shape our lives both in good and sometimes unexpected and often unrealized ways. And a lot of times they're really good, or at least harmless. You see the cardinal and you laugh, and maybe it's years later to realize, oh, that's right, my uncle always used to tickle me. That's why I laughed. And you may never remember why. It's just something that's in your personality. But it also can be things, and we talked about this a little bit, things like why you don't like money, or why you feel that success is bad. And there's all sorts of things that get programmed in there. And part of this later on in the full course, we talk about how to go through and discover those and root out those beliefs that you've picked up over the years that may not be serving you well as an adult. When you were little, it may have been, worked really well for you. Don't be proud. A good child is a child who isn't proud. And I've often talked to people about this. There's a difference between being proud in your accomplishments, as I worked to my best ability, and then being filled with hubris and kind of, I'm just so amazing because of all I did. Different kind of pride. It's funny, English has so many words to describe things, and then sometimes we just hang so many meanings on one word. And so when you were little and told you shouldn't be proud of anything you do, and now you're older, and you do a really good job in something, you say, well, there's this little voice in your mind going, don't be proud of it. Only bad kids are proud. So beliefs are really good, but they can get out of hand if you're not careful. So we'll talk about that. And just let me switch back. That's it for the slides. So now I've mentioned this is all being assembled into an introductory course called Your Future Transformed. And we'll cover this in a lot more in greater depth. So, but the real important point here, I think, that we just briefly went through again tonight is there's a couple different really important pieces. The envisionment piece is, well, the core piece, obviously, is knowing what your life purpose is, and we'll work through that. But once you do that, you want to set SMART goals. That's really super important. Goals that really move you towards what your life purpose fulfills. And then after that, understanding the whole process of how a stimulus creates a thought, and the thought then goes on to create an emotion, and then repeatedly that turns into a belief, and those beliefs then automate that process. And being cognizant of the fact that sometimes those beliefs are really, really good, and sometimes they can be kind of get in the way of things you're trying to accomplish now that you're, in a different phase of your life than maybe when those beliefs were formed. So, like I said, we'll talk about this a lot more in the course and talk about it more over the coming weeks, but that's it for the evening. Again, ukr7.com, ukr7.com. That is still up. That's the covers ways you can donate to support the people of Ukraine. That war is just getting, as you probably are well aware, worse and worse and worse. It's just turning into just a horrible brawl with people on both sides needlessly dying. So ukr7.com, please check it out. Remember, the best way to care for yourself is to care for others. So if you can and you're able, please consider making a donation in any form. And there's a bunch of links at ukr7.com. So thanks for stopping by. If you found something interesting and useful, please pass it along, and please hit that like button. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone, and see you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Have a good night.